Pull up. Park it. Kick back, spark it. Welcome to the spot where money talks honest. Yeah. This is Gosh Talk with Bill Haase. Real life money in your front seat. From the paycheck to the profit. Turn that I don't know to I got this. Gosh Talk with Bill Haase. Blueprint stacked on the workbench. From the hustle to the harvest. Learning what they never really taught us. So if you're tired of the fine print winning, slide a chair in, that's a new beginning. We keep it straight, keep it smart, keep it classy. You're tuned in now, Gosh Talk with Bill Haase.
Hello, welcome to Garage Talks with Bill Haase. Today, I've got a very special guest. A good friend of mine, Chris Flowers, is joining us. He is, are you retired? What branch of the military were you in?
I did 8 years. I didn't retire. I did 8 years in the military. I was between two branches. I would serve the United States Air Force and security forces, and then I transitioned out, and then I actually served in the Army National Guard as what's called a forward observer. I was FIST. So it was, like I said, I was guiding in like artillery and airstrikes and things like that.
Did you ever know a Colonel Craig Wilcox?
Not that I can recall offhand.
Okay, he's one of the few I know from the Air Force, and he's a state senator here in Illinois, a good friend of mine.
Oh, okay.
That he'll be on this show later on, but welcome. Please fill us in a little bit more. I mean, you have your own show, right?
I do.
Fill us in. What do you got going on?
All right. Well, I have my own podcast called Here's the Deal, and what it is, I took 30 years of business banking experience, and I just want to educate, elevate, and inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs. Because being in business banking for as long as I was, I've had a million conversations with a million people, and people started businesses, and I call it, they went Cortez on me, like they quit the job, they cashed in the 401k, maxed out the credit cards, did all stuff, and then they came to me for a loan. And I'm like, we're about way too late. So now I got to dig you out of this hole. It's going to be very expensive. So I wanted to take, or like I said, people are existing business owners, first they start out there, they're wearing all the hats. They have to learn how to delegate. They have to learn how to automate. They have to learn how to, relinquish some of that control, because there's no way you can scale your business without being able to do those things. And there's no way I'm going to buy your business if you're the one running the entire show, because what you have is a job. You don't have a business. If you can't walk away from your business for at least a month and everything run fine, you have a job. You don't have a business. So if you're not planning for that since day one, those are the things that we talk about on our show. I'd like to say on top of various different professionals I have come on, business coaches, Meta and Google ad people, business attorneys, things like that. That way, because I want to give business owners, either people that want to be business owners or people that are business owners, I want to give them the tools and the information they need to help grow their business.
That's awesome. Good friend of mine, Joe Rojas, wrote a book on how many hats a business owner wears, and it's somewhere in that 115 range.
Crazy, right?
So
head CEO and head janitor all at the same time.
Yeah, so you're an entrepreneur and a solo prop person. You're wearing 115 plus hats, and you didn't even know it. So it's challenging, and you're right. It's a job. It starts off with a passion. I bet you were a little busy around 2022 when we had the Great American Walkout. All those corporate executives that walked out thinking they could start their own business, they just hang a shingle outside, and everybody's going to bang down their door.
Piece of cake.
Because I'm the best of the best. I was in global sales for Abbott Labs or something. And it's like, your world is this big, and they learned their lesson, one after another. But so therein lies the connection here. You're in the financial world. You deal with a lot of it with businesses. I've worked with business owners. I had that radio show for 4 years where all we talked about was how to go from concept to success. And but one thing I rarely talked about was, boy, you kind of need some money to do that.
You kind of do.
It's very hard, and even when you launch, that's when the real work starts and the real money's needed. Having the concept is great, but once you get into the real nitty-gritty and the work, and you get out there and you're selling your product or your services, that's when it starts costing you money.
That's when it starts costing you money, but then there's also, you have to control that, because there's going to be a lot of shiny stuff out there. Ooh, Meta and Google ads. Ooh, this, ooh, that. And depending on what scale of business you're at, you don't need a lot of that crap. Okay. Because I believe, like I'm in the Dave Ramsey mindset of, hey, if you can make a profit with a $2 hammer, why buy a $20 hammer? Okay. Now, will you need the $20 hammer later on? Yes, you will, because your production is going to pick up and things like that. That's where the scaling and the automating and, having your process down. Like I said, it's a lot of the things that we coach to. But at first, especially when you're first starting out, like I said, there's going to be a lot of things pulling, oh yeah, we can do this, free this, that, and you're going to spend a shit ton of money, and you're going to get zero ROI of their return on investment.
Yeah.
You're going to, and that, that these are the things where you got to pump the brakes a little bit too. So yes, you do have to spend money to make money, no doubt, but you don't have to throw it out the freaking window as fast as you can make it either. So,
well, that's the hard part. What should you be spending your money on? What are those shiny things that are going to work for you well now versus working better for you later? And you don't know. You just
Correct.
can't. I get bombarded every single day about my book,
Mm-hmm.
saying people want to interview me and want to do magazine articles and all kinds of things, but they want $2,000 to do it.
Of course.
And then when I say I don't need you, they come back and say, okay, well, we'll do it for $700 or $900. And it's like, okay, now you've just proved to me your lack of value. And I said,
right,
you're showing me
100%.
all these famous people's names that you've worked with and everything. And I go, I guarantee you they didn't pay. So if you want to pay me, I might play, but it's interesting because you will. Like the one you're going to get hit on the most as a business owner is your website.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody around the world is going to take a look at your website and say, hey, it looks great, but it could be better. And I'm the man to make it better. Or a woman to make it better, whatever. Right?
Most definitely. Definitely.
And I'm sitting here going, I have one of the best web designers I've ever known in my life, and such, but I don't even answer them anymore. I want to get back to the military aspect.
Okay.
We were talking a little bit about this in the green room before the show, and you're retired. Well, not retired, right?
Not retired, no.
But you came out of the military, went into civilian life.
Correct.
What were your thoughts on that? What were your first thoughts? What were your biggest concerns?
Man, back then, I didn't really have too much thought process into it, to be perfectly honest with you. And back then, I don't know how it is now. It seems to be somewhat better helping veterans transition. But for me, they pretty much handed me a DD-214 and said, good luck. Nice knowing you. Have a great day.
Right.
They didn't inform me about anything about, disability or VA, or even when I went to go finally file for that kind of stuff, they didn't tell me everything oh, you have to put your wife and children down. I'm like, you already know I have a wife and kids, but since I didn't put them down when I originally first started my claim, they didn't pay me for it, which I didn't know they were supposed to pay me more for it. Things like that. I found that out like 7 years later. I'm like, wait a minute, you should have been paying me for my wife and kids the whole damn time, and I didn't know about it, and nobody bothered to tell me about it. Just little stupid things like that, let alone, like I said, I went back home I'm from Connecticut originally, but I wanted to move out here to Arizona. So I moved out here with a duffel bag and a Yankee hat. And I said, hey man, I'll figure it out. I live in Arizona. And that was it, man. Like I said, I went from 2 combat MOSs to, I started, I was pounding nails, right? And I was working construction, because I worked construction prior to me joining the military. And my friend's mom, who was like a part-time teller, it was a bank called Bank One back in the day. Now it got bought out by Chase. Do you remember Bank One? Okay, yeah.
Sure,
that's where I started. Yeah, that's where I started at Bank One. Yeah, they were out of Columbus. So I was working on, building houses. We were building track homes out here. And, we were in between builds, right? So we built the track, had to wait a couple weeks for the next one to start up. My friend's mom, now I remember I was 23 and single, okay? Put it in context. So my friend's mom says, hey, why don't you come work for the bank? They like hire military, you work inside, you don't get laid off. There's lots of good looking girls. And I said, there are a lot of hot chicks at the bank. You are correct. Let me pursue this. That's literally how much thought I put into that. Okay. I was 23 and single. There are a lot of hot chicks at the bank. You're right. And then,
well, when I was 23, I'd probably fall for that too. So
right. I put zero. I grew up hustling my whole life. You know what I'm saying? Back in the neighborhood, doing neighborhood things. So talking to people is easy for me. That's no problem. So I went in there, barely knew what a checking account literally was. And then this is even before, I'm so long ago, like I said, debit cards hadn't even come out yet. That's how old I am. So I know people like, oh, somebody just said the other day, aren't you like 32? I'm like, I laughed out loud. Like, don't I wish I was 32. Anyway, so, like I said, that's literally how much thought I put into my banking career. But within 2 years, I was the assistant branch manager, and then I went to go do home equities, and I even got an internship at Charles Schwab, and so on, so on. So yeah, I mean, it took off from there, but it was that's literally about how much thought I put into. But that's how much I had zero assistance from the VA. I had zero assistance from anybody. I literally had a duffel bag, my Army or my Air Force duffel bag, and a Yankee had his I'll figure it out.
Yeah, and I mentioned to you we're going to stop in Oahu to help with some of the military personnel that are transitioning to civilian life.
And thank you for doing that. Appreciate it.
You're in a controlled environment, right? And you're going into chaos. I call it chaos because if you're not used to getting bombarded every day by every single business and company and person out there, it can be overwhelming. Because everybody's just there to pick your pockets.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, that's the crux of it. So it sounds like the transition for you wasn't as challenging because you're outgoing person.
Oh no, it was challenging, but like I said, I said just grit, dude. Just got in the grace of God, God having his hand on me, even before I even realized it. That's beautiful. Yeah, just grit, bro.
Yeah, but not everybody has that. There's plenty of people who just like, I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know what things are going to cost. I don't know how I'm going to live. Do I rent? Do I buy? I need a car, right? I mean, that's probably one of the first purchases you made was a car, from what I understand, and in my discussions with other retired military personnel. But it's and it gets expensive, and you're not used to that.
And this is the thing, they don't teach money management in the military either. I mean, I don't know if they do now. Like I said, maybe now they might have some financial literacy, but back in the day, bro, it was going to the bar, bro. It was going to the bar, it was drinking. Guys had the most ridiculous stereo systems in the barracks. Like, I mean, back in the day, there was like the hot speakers like Sir Winnebago and stuff like. These guys had professional stereo. I mean, these things were. It was a freaking Kiss concert. It was like crazy, right? In the barracks. And we're sitting there in the barracks, right? And we're drinking and doing everything. And this guy comes in. He's like, check out now again, this is back in the 90s. So, bear with me. So he comes in. He's got this bicycle. It's a bicycle. He walked in and he's like, and I said, man, it was a nice looking bike, and everything. And this is back in the day, before the shock absorber things were all common. Like, I hadn't seen shock absorbers on a bicycle before. I'm like, this is really cool. I said, how much you pay for this bike? He said $1,700. I'm like, dude, you don't own a freaking car, and you spent $1,700 on a flipping. I use some other words on a flipping bicycle. Dude, I got a $500 Fiat outside. I'll kick your ass. Like, I was saying, this is in Germany. Yeah, exactly. I have a $500 Fiat outside. What are What are you thinking? $1,700 on a freaking bicycle. What are you thinking?
You know what?
But I was drinking that in the bar, so I mean, where was I?
Yeah, well, priorities, right? We all have our priorities. But I've come across this many times in talking with, especially where I live in the Chicagoland area, I'm right by a kind of a discount mall kind of place, and it's right in between myself and the Great Lakes Naval Base. So, all these guys come in to boot camp and such. They get their first paycheck and they run right over to that mall and they blow it. And all of it. And, and I see them buying cologne because they want to smell good for the girls when they do get their chance to go out, and such, but, or cell phones, which they're not supposed to have. But they're blowing it because they're just not accustomed to having that much money.
Correct.
And it's not a lot of money.
It's not a lot of money, but you got no bills. So
you got no bills. But the military doesn't pay you a lot, but they provide a lot for you that normally cost you money out.
You got 3 hots and a cot. So it's like, hey, you know what? And like I said, we'd be out, even like I said, if I lived out in the economy or something like that, like I lived out in the economy in Germany and everything, hey, if I was running short on cash, I could always go to the chow hall and eat. So,
Right. Yeah. It's just a lot of people have that nowadays. What they do is they go to cash apps and they borrow money, and a huge mistake. Lord if you don't have enough money to cover your bills and feed yourself at the end of the month, then taking out a loan isn't going to make it easier next month.
Oh no, you just compounded. You just compounded
some
that.
Of those back, those get over 300 to 600% interest. If you
let me tell you,
I can't pay it.
I deal with people, like I said, that have dug themselves a hole with these. Oh God,
the buy now pay laters.
Yeah, no. Oh my God, I can't even think of the name. I hate the damn thing so much, but they're so freaking common. Where they'll when you batch your merchant card and they give you money off the receivables.
You get cash back, kind of.
No. So there's a scam. It's legal, but they're freaking vampires, and they suck the life out of every business because people have that microwave mentality. I need money now. And they'll fund me $4,000 in an hour. Okay, with no paperwork, and that's great. You know what I'm saying? But it's but it will suck the life out of your business, and you're gonna end up shutting the damn doors. You go down that road. The name freaking escapes me because
and they don't stop coming after you either.
Oh no, and because I can't stand them. God, that's gonna hit me probably as soon as we get off the show. I'll think of the damn term.
But nowadays these cash apps, you borrow $300, let's say, and you pay it back. Then they come back to you and say, now you can borrow $1,000.
Right, and it's making it easier and easier and easier.
You can borrow $2,000.
Oh, these guys will go six positions deep. Like you can borrow money with these scumbags, and then you can go get another one and go get more money, things like that. They'll go 6 positions deep. They don't care. Like I mean, it's just, and it's a freaking vampire loan to a business.
Do you know that a lot of these loans are illegal in most countries in the world? They've already figured it out. But not here. So this is like one of the last grandstands for these kinds of operations, and I can't stand it. And even when I hear things like, I know the buy now pay later loans are terrible, but now there's such things as fix now and pay later, so you can get your car windshield fixed, or get a new water heater or something fixed, and and pay later. It makes it too easy for us to get into financial trouble.
I taught my kids the 10-10-80 rule. Like I said, it's my daughter's got her first job. 10-10-80. You tithe 10, you save 10, you live off the 80.
Yeah. And that's a great rule. And in fact, I think I wrote that in my book, that rule.
Did you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
So, you're doing a good thing, but you're doing something most parents don't do. And that is teach their child about money. Because, and the reason being is when I used to stand in front of groups and speak I'm now a recovering financial advisor, but when I was advising, I would stand in front of groups and say, look, there's 2 things most spouses never talk about, almost never talk about, and that's money and sex. I'm here to help you with one of those. And the idea was to try to break the monotony, because they're sitting there going, yeah, this guy's just trying to sell us something and pick our pockets and take our money and everything else. And it's like the walls are all built up, and it's like, why do I even do this? which is why I gave that up and said, I'm going to go teach about money so that people make better decisions, right? Now, my mission statement is knowledge gives you options, options gives you freedom. And, it
Definitely.
just blows my mind that for generations after generations, money is the one constant in everybody's life. It's probably the number one stressor in most people's lives.
Definitely.
And yet we do nothing about it. We don't do anything.
It's ruined marriages. It's ruined friendships. It's it's been crazy.
Marriages ruined, friendships ruined, businesses ruined, relationships of all kinds. Very common.
Somebody used this in a different context, but I'm gonna steal it and paraphrase it. Finance is like teenage sex. Everybody's talking about it, they don't know what they're doing.
But, all right, boy, oh boy, I can't say what I'm thinking. But
yeah, he said that about it completely. He was actually talking about AI, but I was like, I just heard that and I started laughing. I'm like, dude, I'm totally stealing it.
Oh, that's hilarious. I could really love to go back to that.
They talk like they know what they're doing, but they have no idea.
Not a clue, right?
Oh my God,
it's
so funny.
The birds and the bees. When I was growing up, that's what we called it. You're going to teach your child the birds and the bees, and it's like everybody's like, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah,
so they don't. And the same thing about money. We send our kids to school, and then they go off to college, and the all-American dream, right? You get done with high school. What do? You go to college, and
right.
And high schools base. They use those numbers. Well, 99% of our students went to college.
Oh yeah.
And so you want to go to school here, and then they go off to college and they get that debit card that they can spend anywhere on campus. When it first started, and then it got to you can spend it anywhere in town.
My daughter gets more credit cards. My daughter gets more because both my kids are in college, and my kids get more credit card apps. And like I don't even let them see them. I just take them and I just shred them. Not happening.
Yeah,
not happening.
What we're doing is we're teaching our kids how to spend with no consequences, because mom and dad load the card up,
right?
In college, and
exactly.
And they'll load it up and say, all right, that's for the semester, and then a month later you're calling home, going, I'm sorry, but I'm starving, and I ran out of money, and what do the parents say? They go, they give in, they'll give more money, and they say,
of course,
you should really learn how to budget your money.
Right.
The same people who aren't doing it. Right.
I'll tell you what, and like I said, whoever, I hope somebody's listening to this, and I remember because when my kid, and I totally got that from Dave Ramsey, Smart Money, Smart Kids. I totally did. And so, I remember my daughter's a spender. My son is a miser. Like, my son doesn't spend a freaking nickel. He's like, so, it's funny, but, I told my kids, I raised them on commission, not allowance, right? We get a list of jobs all over the house. There are certain jobs that are non-negotiable. You had to clean their room, things like that. But there are other jobs, doing the dishes, dusting. They all had a dollar amount. We negotiated the prices. Okay, here for this job, you're going to pay. Some jobs pay more, some jobs pay less. And there was a list of jobs. And if you did those jobs, you got paid. If you didn't do those jobs, you didn't get paid. So if, my son wanted a PlayStation, he would get up early, work his ass off, take all the high paying jobs. My daughter slept in, and like what was left, the smaller jobs and things like that. My son got his PlayStation. He's like, hey, and he earned it.
Really giving them an allowance that they didn't do anything to earn.
Exactly. And I remember my daughter being in a grocery store. We went shopping one day. And we're checking out, they got all the Snickers bars there and all that kind of stuff. So she grabs a Snickers bar. She puts it on the thing. I said, that's coming out of your cash when you get home, right? She put it back.
Well, how'd your son feel, because he got that game, because once you see, you stack that money in an account, you're watching it grow, then you go to buy something that's, $400, $500, $600, and you think about it, right? You're like, whoa. Look how much time it took me to get to that point, and I'm going to blow it all on one thing. That's a good lesson for kids to learn. But I got to tell you a quick funny story, because you talk about kids in grocery stores. So my daughter wanted the blue top pudding. That was $3.50, and I said, well, let's get the red top pudding, because that was on sale for 99 cents. She would have
there you go.
right? So she's 3 years old, whatever. She lays down on the floor throwing a fit. So what do? I put my basket down. I lay down on the floor and start throwing a fit with her. And she just looks up at me and goes, "What the hell are you doing?" And I said, "Are you done now?" And I got up and I walked around the corner. And I go, "Oh God, I hope she follows. I hope she follows." And
my God,
pat, here she comes running around the corner. But
that's awesome.
Even at early ages, we can teach our kids because money's with us from birth to death and beyond, right? They'll fight over your money afterwards. So that's what blows my mind, that people don't learn more about it and understand. I get it. Not everybody's a numbers person.
Now, especially going back to the military thing. When you're in a situation where you don't know if you're going to be alive tomorrow, you know what I mean? There's that. All right. So like, hey, you know what? Let's have a good time because we might get deployed tomorrow and we might not be here the next day. So you kind of have that little bit mentality too. I mean, because hey, did I think I was going to live to see 55 years old? No. Okay. But I did. But I tell you what, and again, this goes back to the Jesus thing. I was living like there was no tomorrow. Like I said, guys, hey, because there might not have been. And I grew up, like I said, I grew up in Connecticut. I grew up next to the Bronx. So it's like, hey, it was a day-to-day proposition, literally. So you don't know.
I'm with you. You and I are the same mindset. I didn't think I'd live past 40. And I didn't see any reason why I should be.
Chicago, same thing, right? It's like,
I was in the trading pits. The things that went on in trading pits.
And right.
After hours, living that lifestyle.
Oh, buddy. Yep.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
There was
a whole lot of that. There's
all kinds of influences that would derail many people.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, and to your
Seen
point,
it.
My 57-year-old brother-in-law this past Sunday night, he was preparing for a colonoscopy Monday morning. The preps, basically, he wound up passing out, falling down, hitting his head on Sunday night. We didn't even know it until a friend said he didn't show up to his colonoscopy the next morning. Had the fire department break the door down and found him in a pool of blood laying there. He's in the hospital now in ICU. 57, and he could be, he's recovering, but is he going to be able to go back to his job?
Wow.
You don't know. Life happens, and it might not be something so drastic like that. It could be, I had a tree fall. Well, I had to have 2 other trees taken out because of that, and that cost me $3,500. Was I prepared for that? No. Did I plan on that? No. You know, did you buy a house? Did you ever think you'd have to replace your driveway?
Oh my God! Right.
Or your doors or your windows?
Right.
We don't think about these things, right? And these are
you got to replace the roof, right? Hello.
Yeah. Well, let the storm chasers come running through your neighborhood and the roofers, and they'll tell you, "I'll deal with the insurance company, and don't worry about it. They'll pay for everything."
Right.
Yeah, trust me, worry about it. Don't follow those folks. But,
be worried about it.
Question everything. Question everything that's taking money out of your pocket, and that's what we have to learn to do. That's what I talk about is with the book Our Mindset on Money. It's more about a relationship in our mindset with money.
Yes.
What compels us, what gets us to spend our money, and if you start keeping track, you start questioning, why would I spend $150 a month at Starbucks? That just doesn't make any sense. I could drive a nicer car, or I could maybe invest that money, or
right,
maybe put a little bit into savings.
not for nothing. We were talking about kids and things like that. I learned how to cook at an early age. And so I made sure, it's an Italian thing, I guess, whatever. So I made sure my kids knew how to cook. Like I said, when they were little, I'm talking 4, 5, 6, 7, I had them peeling garlic and making meatballs and learn how to make sauce and everything like that. Because I said, the whole thing is like, you give somebody a fish to eat for a day, you teach somebody how to fish, they'll eat the rest of their life. So my kids know how to cook. Both of them, my son and my daughter, things like that. And I was sitting there, my daughter got her first job, and I started seeing DoorDash, and I started seeing it. I was like, whoa, time out. Hold on a minute. It's like every, or I deserve a sweet treat. And okay, I mean, you got to have a little, little in there. But at the same time, it's like, whoa, pump the brakes here.
Yeah.
Let's do some math. Okay. That's that subject you really don't like. We're going back to that. Let's do some math. And I took her around the grocery store again. I said, look, you paid how much for that meal? You could have bought all the ingredients, went on YouTube, found Jet Ty or Gordon Ramsay or whatever chef they'll teach you how to make that at a fraction of the cost. And then now you can make it the rest of your life, things like that.
My kids, the same thing. I've done professional chef work, so and my wife is a great chef, and so our kids grew up with some good cooking, and they're great cooks now. But you know what? Doesn't stop them from ordering like Grubhub or whatever. And I'm like, I've never done it in my life. I've looked at it a couple of times, but I'm just like, why would I pay that? Mm-hmm. I mean, so one of the pet peeves I have is one of my favorite pizza joints. I went online the other day to order a pizza. Of course, I'll go pick it up. But they were charging me $1.99 to order online. And I just went, what?
Wow.
Never mind. Goodbye.
Right. Yeah. I'll order it there and wait 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah. Exactly. I said, well, if I call, then you have to pay for somebody to be there to answer. But if you don't check the receipt, and that's why I was telling my kids too, like I said, and as business owners too, like I said, it's those little things. And if you don't price those things, because if your vendor's charging you, you got to pass that. But if you're not pricing that stuff into your jobs and things like that, I just literally got off the phone with a new client of mine. And that's, I say, hey, and they're just starting their company, things like that. They're contractors. I'm like, what you're paying me, you better price that into your jobs. Okay. Make that part of your cost of goods, because for me to do your marketing, things like that, there's a cost to it. So there's a cost to you doing this work. So make sure that you are insulating yourself from that, because not a lot of people think that way. You see what I'm saying? So you're on the side of what I call good borrowing, right? There's good borrowing and there's bad borrowing. Good borrowing, correct, is when you're borrowing funds that is going to help you generate income.
Correct.
Going forward, right? Bad debt is debt that's just costing you money that you'll never see or get back again. Buying a car depreciates versus buying a home typically appreciates, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're borrowing money from a gentleman like you, you're going to make sure that they're using it for the right reasons.
Correct.
And that's a big difference, because even like in the financial advising world, there's maybe 20% of the people that actually do a good job.
Right. Correct.
That know what they're doing, put you in the right position, get you in the right frame of mind, fill you in on what to expect. There's just so many people that don't do that.
How many conversations did you have with the annuities guys when they came floating around? I know when I was at Charles Schwab and especially when I was at Morgan Stanley. Oh my God. These guys are taking us out to lunch every day and dinners and this. Oh man, you get, your 12B1 fees are going to be XYZ. And that's the upfront load on an annuity. And there is one, be advised. So, things like that. So
yeah,
that just kept pushing, play, blah, 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 blah. You ever hear a thing called risk tolerance? That's not a part of my client's goals. Thank you very much. So therefore you can keep the lunch if you want. I don't care. Because I'm like,
you get those cards for the steak dinners, right? Come out to this restaurant, I'll buy you a steak dinner.
Right.
And you're going to have to listen to my vendors talk about all the great products they have, and then then I'm going to hit you up much like a timeshare. I'm not going to let you go until you give up.
Pretty much.
You give in.
Right. Well, I tell you, the one thing that I always ask clients, especially when I was in banking full time, things like that. Of course, they have an operating line of credit on their brain like 24/7, right? Because that's the only thing they know. Like, hey, I need money. I need a line of credit. My first question back to them: why do you think you need a line of credit? Well, I got to buy equipment. I got to buy, I got to fund the. I said, okay, time out. I said, there's some lanes we're going to go down, and I'm going to educate you on it, because that was my job. It's not their job to be the financial expert. I'm the financial expert. They came to me. Okay, their job is whatever it is, being a chef, being a mechanic, being a, contractor. That's your area of expertise. That's where you shine. Let me educate you on my side of the desk. Anything, and you obviously speaking to preaching to the choir, of course, anything you can't pay off in 9 days or less does not go on a line of credit. Okay, if you're going to buy equipment, you got to get an equipment loan. Way different, And then I would educate them on the various different buckets, what expense goes where, and how do we borrow, and then how do we plan? Because obviously, they're starting out today. It's like, okay, of course, I'm thinking. I asked him, that was the other question. What's your exit strategy? The hell are you talking about? I'm just starting up the company. Well, guess what? No, but again, they don't put that forethought
because somebody's going to want to buy it. Well,
right, exactly.
That's why 80% of businesses don't sell.
Exactly, because they didn't have an exit strategy starting day one, and they didn't plan for that. Because every decision you make from now until then is going to affect that number. Because if I've done it once, and again, I know I'm preaching to the choir. If I've done it once, I've done it a million times. Somebody goes to sell a business thing and it's worth X, Y, Z, ABC, or somebody's going to buy a company. Oh yeah, they want $5 million for it. I look at the numbers. I'm looking at the cash flow. I'm looking at the balance sheet. I'm like, this company's worth like 1.5, and I'm not giving you a dime more than 1.5. So here's the deal.
Owner, their business is more valuable than it really is.
Oh my God! Right. Well, because they didn't plan for it, and I don't mean to dominate the whole show with this kind of thing, but you got to have that board of advisors. Your banker, your CPA, and your attorney need to be your outside board, your outside executive board, because you have the vision, you have the dream. Hey, I want to in 2 years buy this building. In 5 years, I want to do this. In 10 years, and then we, as the advisory board, need to hey, if you want to do that, here's what I got to see on the tax returns. CPA's got to. Nobody wants to pay the IRS. The IRS sucks. I would abolish the IRS tomorrow if I could, but it's there. It's real. It ain't going anywhere, unfortunately. So we got to make sure. And then the attorney's going to keep everybody out of jail. So, the banker has, okay, here's what I need. The CPA makes those numbers work, and the attorney keeps everybody out of jail, and that's how it works. But you got to have that vision, that goal. You got to have the discipline to say, hey, if I want to do this, if I want to open up a second location, if I want to buy a building, things like, and then you again, it's all part of the mindset. It's all part of that mindset on money.
Right. It goes back to you don't understand your personal finances. So, and then you go into business, and you're not going to know business finances. You
barely handle the personal stuff,
and that makes you very vulnerable, right? It makes all of us personally. It makes us vulnerable when we don't know our own finances. But business wise, holy cow! I mean, and there's plenty of wolves out there looking to take advantage of that.
And you can't be afraid to say you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And you can't be afraid because you could sit here and fumble around with it, or they can hire you.
Well, one of the toughest questions I propose to the business owners that I've learned is none of them ever say, I need help. Can you help me? Because they think that's a sign of weakness, right?
Right.
And I've got a grip. It's my business. I built it. Yada, 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 yada. But you can only go so far.
Right.
I mean, nobody in life was ever taught how to build business from concept to $1 billion business. You're just not. Yes. Are there exceptions? Have people done it? Yes, of course. Bill Gates and Zuckerman and stuff. But come on, folks. Yeah, you're not all that. And none of us are. Not many of us are, at least. It's such a rare exception.
But you're not doing it on your own, because, like I said, maybe Steve Jobs built Apple out of his garage area at first, but it wasn't until Woz came along and got innovative and this, that, and the third, and and so on. So, especially in a business, like I said, you only what'd you say? How many hats did the solopreneur wear?
115. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that's a fact. But you got to get to, again, if you don't have that exit strategy, say, hey, I want to do this. But in order for me to get from A to B, I got to do all these little things, like I said, obviously delegation, automation, because like I said, if you have a business, you should be able to walk away from that business for 30 days, take a vacation, and that business should still be running just like it was. But if it isn't, if you have to be there every day making a decision, this and that and the third, you don't have a business, you have a job. And I don't want to buy your job.
If you can't walk away for 30 days without being worried to death, then you probably can't walk away at all. But it's and you're spot on. but there's that risk tolerance you talked about is comfort level, and if you don't have that comfort level, then you're being controlled. And when you are being controlled and you are not in control, that is when opportunity for the wolves to come in and take advantage. And
correct.
That goes on every single day. I've seen many of these wolves and dealt with them and been involved with them and learned my lesson the hard way.
How many times you heard, oh, hey, so-and-so, I had a partner, I had a CPA or whatever, and basically they got all their money embezzled because they weren't paying attention to the books. They didn't know enough. They didn't know enough. What, like I said, they weren't like, looking at, why the hell my cost of goods go up, 30%? Like what happened there? Like,
Oh, or how come I'm losing money month after month after month?
Right.
And you just sit there and wait for the next month, hoping it's going to finally show some income. And once again, you lost money. You don't do anything about it. Of course, like I said, I just don't get it.
Oh, we could talk about this all day.
Yeah, we could, and but we are running out of time here. So once again, tell us about your show. Let us know where we can find you.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, my show is called Here's the Deal, and you can find me all over social media. Like I said, I'm LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. YouTube channel is Here's the Deal 827 with no spaces. So if you go on the YouTube channel, you'll see all my past work and everything like that. Like I said, it's all about educate, elevate, and inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs. So I want to take my 30 years of business, banking experience, and I want to pass that on to people that have that dream, they have that passion. They could be in a soul-sucking job in a cubicle, wasting hours a day, driving to a job they can't stand anyway.
Yep.
But they really have something in here, and they really want to, make it work. Okay. That's where people like you and I can come in and say, okay, here's how we can do this, but we're going to have a plan. We're going to have a strategy about it. We're not, like I said, we're not going Cortez and burning the ships and quitting the job and max cashing into 401k. Okay, we're gonna phase this thing in. Okay, so things like that. So these are just the different things that I talk about. And again, even when you start a business, there's all kinds of shiny things out there that can Meta ads, Google ads. You got to spend $5,000 a month. No, you don't. Especially when you're first starting a business. No, you don't. And don't do that. So, so things like that. So.
And I would encourage you to get out, start your own business if you're not happy with where you're at, or you're trapped because you're making too much money. You're trapped because I can tell you from experience, once you do retire and you're done with working, you're going to look back at that life and you're going to say, "What did I do? Why did I accomplish?" And you're going to. I wish I had started this. Candle's going to burn out.
Yep, I wish I had started this 10 years ago, bro. I really did. And, but again, God had a plan. And I'm just following his plan. So we all go through what we go through for a reason.
Yes. Well,
there's a purpose for it,
right?
Yes.
I mean, I was in finance world for 38 years before, 36 years or so before I broke out, and I said, "Oh, that's why you showed me hell first, so
Correct.
I could learn what I needed to learn, so I could do what you need me to do."
Correct.
And so God bless you for what you're doing. And I truly appreciate it.
Same.
I appreciate you coming on the show. Chris Flowers, here's the deal. Look him up. He's everywhere. He's got great stuff. Good stuff. Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's been an honor and a privilege, my friend. Thank you very much. I'd say it's different. It's different being interviewed when I'm usually the one doing the interviews. So it's fun. It's fun to be on this side of the mic for once.
Well, yeah, good, because it's with me. It's just a conversation.
Hey.
We're just trying to help folks get better understandings in different aspects of finance. And I appreciate you bringing your specialty and your knowledge and experience to the forefront, because it's important, and we thank you. So here at Garage Talks with Bill Haase, we want to thank Chris Flowers. Here's the deal for coming on the show and helping us all learn a little bit more, and maybe that much, just a hair much better, because that's it. Every day, if you can get just one step ahead to where you need to go, when you plan a year out, you got to say, all right, where do I need to be in the beginning of the fourth quarter, beginning of the third quarter, second quarter, and you get down to what can I do today that's going to get me to that goal.
Correct.
And it almost always involves money.